Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 39 of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast.
Ooh, 30. Did we skip an episode? 39? That sounds like a lot.
No, I'm pretty sure we're 39. Like we were literally just debating about the numbers, so don't be screwing with me.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah. This is like the most critical part of everything you prepare for is at least remembering the episode number.
Yeah, because the problem is because we record ahead. So I go and see which ones are posted, but once we're like in our little streaming thing, I can't see which one we already have.
Oh, yeah.
And because we send it all off to our producers or whatever that put all of them together.
Yeah.
And then
our production team. We have a production team.
We got a production team. We're so big. You know, it's such a huge podcast. We have literally in like the low triple digits of listeners. That's how big we are.
That's pretty big, dog.
I mean, honestly, like if you think about it, like think about if you were in like you go to an event and you're going to speak in front of like 100 people. Mm-hmm. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like a big thing to go do. So that's an interesting thing about podcasting though, is that's basically what it is, but it's on, an infinitely larger scale because you can reach a lot of people with like long form content. I think that's why it's so powerful for people that really capitalize on it and start to do well with whatever they're
I wouldn't bet by the end of the year, part of the Q1 2023 will be in the top 100 of real estate business podcasts.
You know what's shocking though is like how few downloads that actually is.
Hey, don't say that. We're trying to pump it up, dog.
We're trying to pump it up. But that's like such a vanity metric. Like you'll hear, if anybody listens to any other podcast, you'll have these people say like we're a top 1% podcast in our category. Yeah. Like I know people that have. They've had their podcast for a little bit and they'll have like 25,000 listens total, period. Yeah. And whatever their category is, they'll be like a top 1.5% podcast.
It's like being an Amazon bestseller in the category of small cats with dyslexia learning disabilities for the human cat owner.
Well, you're kind of right though, right? Because there's all these like specific niches that people do, and people have these podcasts that are like, have such a small general audience anyway. So the listenership isn't big. So it's kind of easy but it's such a vanity metric. I don't know. It's much the same as when you have like someone that says like, oh, I own, 5,000 doors in real estate. And it's like, well, you come from money and you own a bunch of LP, you're in a bunch of limited partnerships. So you own
1%. You own 1% of 5,000 doors.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, sure, it's a good metric, but you're not given the whole story.
Yeah. There's a lot of that just in general with people and descriptions, and it can be very, very misleading. And then as you get to know a situation or a person or whatever, then you kind of dig deeper. You're like, okay, so maybe it's not what I thought it was. Like we always like the grass is greener when you're looking at things or you're hearing things. And so I always have to like just make sure to kind of set my expectations on those sorts of things, like level set it so that when I'm building what I want to do, is not that I'm chasing somebody else, but it's like I kind of know now not to believe everything people say.
Oh, dude, totally. And especially,
I don't know any other way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a great way to say it, and especially as we've gotten more and more involved in like the entrepreneurial circles, because there's kind of an interesting thing about being in GoBundance and these other sort of groups that we're in. Sure, there's a lot of real estate people, but there's also people that are like in other businesses and stuff like that. But there's like this certain relationship that is built in the entrepreneurship community of like, if you have the hustle, you kind of like respect that, right? Yeah. Like regardless of what it is, it's like, someone can have a painting company, someone can have a tech company. If you're connected as entrepreneurs and you respect that each person has hustle, you can like bond on that.
Yes.
Right. And one of the biggest ways, and everyone that has the hustle, which I put both into this, the biggest ways that that someone doesn't have that is when they show up at these events and they have these vanity metrics that they tout. Right. They come in, they're talking about, I have X amount of doors, like I've done X number of deals. And that's like how they make their introduction. Like if that comes up when you're asking about their business, whatever, that's one thing because that could be right. But when like that's their identity, that's how you know they're full of shit. right? It's
Yeah,
just
or they don't have a lot of funny, great stories of the
right.
hustle. And when you're
Yeah.
building a business and the things you go through to do that, like they don't have that same. I don't know, because all they're talking about is their metrics and their vanity stuff because that's what they think it's about. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's really not about any of that. At the end of the day,
No.
it's about the
Well, no.
actions you're taking, right? Like you could sell your business and make a pile of money, and you'd probably go back and do it again.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure. Yeah.
Just in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. But I know it's always funny. Notice that. And then the other thing I always pick up too is the people that are kind of full of it. They will have like 3 stories that they always tell, and that's literally all they
Yeah,
got. Like, and then you try to
yeah,
like expand on anything else, and they don't have anything.
yeah,
And like even then those couple stories. I mean, I know people that have their own podcasts that are like this. They always go back. They'll have had their podcasts for years, and they always just sell the same like 3 things on there.
yeah.
And usually a lot of it was something that happened like 6 years ago that was like
Hmm.
their big moment, and they've done nothing since then. And
100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
for me, being a veteran coming out of the military,
yeah,
like, that was 8 years of my life, but I'm much older than 8. But you
yeah,
see a lot of folks that they continue to live through that part of their life. And for a lot of
mhm,
people, right, because they're beyond it and then they don't think that they've done anything else impressive or they actually haven't done anything else impressive. And so they just kind of keep going back to that small segment in time.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, it's kind of like the definition of let's say someone peaked in high school and they're still stuck in that. People do that with other parts of their life, which actually is like
Yeah.
kind of sad, honestly, because it
Yeah.
usually occurs
Yeah.
pretty early on. But I think that's a big
Yeah.
like mental health thing. That's why people are all depressed. But doesn't
Yeah.
need to be that way if you can go out and, make some of yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as like
Right.
the boomers would say. But you kind of have to be intentional about what that is, whether
Yeah.
that's something business related, that's something personal, that's even if you find that in a, I don't know, sport, fitness,
Yeah.
art, like anything.
You know what
A
I
lot of
find
people.
exciting? I
Yeah.
get excited about like fighting these challenges that we deal with every day. So for our loyal listeners, we are, I don't know, month 5 now of our Airbnb.
Oh yeah.
Our what do you call that? Like our environmental disaster
Our
zone.
environmental
Uh,
disaster. Yeah, we're officially starting litigation season with all this. That's
yeah.
actually what I was going to start off with before I went down the other tangent.
Yeah. So we have this company that it's, I'm not going to name the company, but it rhymes with Schmurf Pro. They're they're a mitigation company that I've
They're a
since learned.
franchise. They're nationwide.
Yeah.
Absolutely do not use them. If they want to pursue you for
Yeah.
libel, they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. They're such a bad company and dishonest. Anyhow, and the insurance company didn't do us any justice, but whatever. We're there. Finally, like they're gone, and now we have this house that is not put back together. And we're kind of just everybody's just like, well, you guys figure it out. It's your house. And I'm like, yeah, but I want money from the insurance company to do this. And then ServPro, because I was like, I'm not paying them for what they did, have sent us to collections. So now we're in collections for $22,500 for work they didn't do. And we have kind of a lawsuit, a potential litigation where they did more damage, right? So
Mhm.
they did more damage than they did good. They damaged other parts of the home, and then also a breach of contract potentially. And I talked to some lawyers about it, and they're like, "Yeah, you could probably sue them for that." They're like, "But it's going to cost you this much." And I was like, "What about if we sue people just to be assholes?" And the one guy's like, yeah, but my hourly rate goes up by $100 an hour if that's why you want to do it. I was like,
Yeah,
well,
right.
kind of, yeah,
Right.
like, but anyhow, so I talked to the collection guy today, and I finally got a hold of him, and he's like, yeah, so here's blah blah blah. Tell me the situation. So I told him the situation, and he was actually a nice guy asking a lot of good questions. And I was telling him, what happened. And I started to think for a minute, I was like, does this guy work for like ServPro? Is he like in their corporate franchise or what? Like, who is this guy? Right. Because he's like, well, tell me why, or this and that and the other. And I basically got down to the point. I was like, well, here's my 2 options. You guys either settle with me for $11,000 or I'm going to sue them. And here's why I'm going to sue them.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I don't have any notes on that. And I'm like, yeah, you probably don't, but I do. I have all the emails, like, and so he kind of was a little bit stunned. And then, so we're negotiating with him. He's like, well, I'll come back to you tomorrow. We'll see what he says.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll come back. He'll ask for more. You got to hold the line, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just like we say to our sales
Totally.
guys, when the seller comes back and asks for more money, make them come to you.
Yeah.
You just got to sit there, right? And like, this is what we're going to do.
Totally.
Like, if you want to make this an expensive lawsuit, I'm happy to.
Absolutely.
Bro, I got tons of properties. I'm just like, in fact, I would say I've been itching for something like this. I got my lawyer all primed up and ready to go.
I'm waiting to tell my friends this story when I'm at the social club.
Yeah, right.
That's why I'm suing you. That's why I want to do it. Yeah. So that, I mean, it's kind of fun though, because it's like at the end of the day, this is a principle thing. You know, the insurance is paying us to pay them. But like,
fun. This is like the kind of thing that people like go see therapists about. Like they get
I know. But then like, here's the thing is like, okay, so we dealt with this loss. So now from an investment and a business standpoint, if I don't have to pay them the full price, why would I? Because I do believe that they did additional damage. I do believe that they didn't do what they're going to say they're going to. We're going to recover from it. We're going to be made whole financially from the physical repair cost of this thing. But like at some point, there's principle with it, and then it's like, how do I optimize this financial situation now? Well, I don't pay them 22. I pay them 11. And then I find my contractors to do the work cheaper than the insurance company said they could. And then we have that difference, which would be not necessarily a profit margin, but, you know, our spread on this hazardous, chaotic, shitty situation.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's how I'm looking at it. What's the spread on this claim?
Yeah, right. How do you know you're an investor when you have a spread on an insurance claim? What's crazy is this whole freaking fiasco. I mean, the insurance company was just so unhelpful, but so I own these 4 properties out in Minnesota. There was a hailstorm out there. Did like, you know, some damage to the roof and siding of all of these houses, right? Hit the whole area. And like realistically, it's stuff the house would be fine with. Like, you know, it's like the kind of things that we see here on houses that has been existing damage for years, right? You go in there, like it's fine. But, you know, our property manager went out, sent someone out, sent some photos, and they were like, yeah, do you want like new roofs and siding on your house, all your houses? I was like, yeah. It's like, cool. Just go and send these to your insurance company, file the claim. There was like a recorded natural disaster here. Just go do that. And I'm getting all new roofs, all new siding on all of the houses. I just got to pay my deductibles and all of them, which is like $2,500. So basically getting 4 new roofs, new siding on 4 properties for 10 grand.
That's such a great deal. That is such a good deal.
You know, and and the thing is, 2 of the roofs are going to need to be done in the next couple of years. And I was actually kind of stressing that a little bit.
Right.
But I'm like, cool. Now it's going to be done. But like, no questions. Like literally, I've had a total of, I would say, 8 minutes of conversations with the insurance company. And they're just like, yeah, that's great. We'll just, you know, they sent someone up from Texas. You know, they just went and like looked at all the things, and they're like, all right, sounds cool. And they sent me money. I already got money for 2 of them.
Dang, let's go to the casino.
Yeah, right.
Just see if we can double it, then you'll profit off this claim, dude. What's your spread on this thing, dude?
That makes sense. Actually, now I'm just not going to fix them. You know,
right? Oh man,
isn't that what the real scummy people are supposed to do?
That's what a real landlord would do. I mean, come on, bro. Yeah, and then sell it to some wholesaler that wants to buy it at a discount.
Yeah, I mean, man, sometimes I think it would be so great to be a dirtbag.
I know,
like honestly, because
so easy.
It would be easy to do, but like you can make good money if you're willing to.
So I mean, it's easy money, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's why people do it.
That's why people are dirtbags. Exactly. It doesn't last very long though.
It's out of principle. I can't do that. I can't be having tenants that are.
But
like, I mean, there's a reason we fix like even minor dumb stuff at our properties.
I know
we don't like things that I personally live with in my own house that are like broken. Way we fix other properties. Like, dude, when we were filming YouTube at your house not too long ago, you didn't even have like a functioning toilet in your basement, dude.
No, the handle broke on it. Yeah, I just
you're pulling the chain like you were.
I have 4 other bathrooms I could use.
But the thing is, if you had a tenant that complained about that,
I'd be fixing it. Yeah, I'd pay our handyman $75 to go do it. I wouldn't even think about it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's funny. Whatever.
But anyway, but yeah, so that's been going pretty good though. We're finally getting some good systems. Like kind of with all these markets we've been doing, been working on bringing on more admins and that sort of stuff. We got 2 new guys, calling them the ACE team, and they're basically doing the lead management for us since now we have so many leads coming in. and they're virtual employees. We've had a handful of virtual employees, but they're just freaking rock stars right now.
They're killing it. They're really good. I just appreciate how on it they are. A lead comes in, man, everybody knows. They're really good about it.
In fact, I almost feel bad for our sales guys because they're not allowed to miss anything anymore because
exactly. Those dudes will kick their ass, man.
Yeah, they're on it like right away. To a lot of the times, like I'll see a lead come in, I'll go and like I'll check in, I'll be like, oh, Mark already hit someone up about it, so I guess we're good.
There you go, dude. Doing your job for you, man.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been getting that figured out, and then we've got one of our other VAs doing our marketing stuff, turning all that together, and trying to systematize things. It's funny with like one market. I know a lot of people try to do that now with like 9 markets. It's the same general processes, but just more. And just with more, it always gets more convoluted. So it's have to be slightly more organized. It's been an interesting thing to figure out. And it's kind of funny too, because there's something about, I think the way that these people that are professional VAs and like the repetitive nature of a lot of tasks that they get through their careers, they just like pick up these patterns and like learn how to do stuff quickly. Because I've tried to explain similar stuff to like Americans, like even when we've had people internally that are doing stuff, or like even trying to explain some of the things to our act managers, and they just don't get it. Like they're like, I don't understand like how these things are all tied together. But you bring in an overseas VA, all of ours are from the Philippines, and you just film like a little Loom video to show them what you need to do, and then they're like, got it, and then they'll just like crush it. Like the next day they're pros.
It's funny because like it gets to the point to where I've done this a couple of times where I'm like, okay, do you get it? And I'm like expecting them to come back with some sort of response, because that's what you're like, right? With like a US based employees, not all of them, but many of them, you're expecting some questions or like not understanding what you're trying to say. And they'll be like, yeah, I got it. And I'm like, are you sure you got it? Do you have it? Like, I don't believe them. And then you're right. The next day they're like doing it. They're like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, oh shit, you were good. Okay, cool. Yeah. They're pretty snappy with that and picking it up and doing a good job and being pretty diligent about it. And of course it matters. It's definitely with the virtuals too. It kind of matters what region you're hiring them from. The Philippines are obviously probably one of the biggest areas. We could talk about why that is, but where they come out of, it's a pretty cost effective region for you to have a staff of VAs out of the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. So before we dive into that too much though, that was going to be our educational topic for today. Something people in our instant investor group have started asking us pretty regularly is finding VAs for some of these repetitive tasks. And what does that look like? Virtual assistants. So really quick, I'm going to do our little ad here for the Instant Investor Program. And after that, we're going to dive into how we find VAs, the kind of stuff that we have them do, how to pre-screen them and how to manage them. And it's all a lot simpler than you think, despite what people tell you. So cool. Really quick, some notes about the Instant Investor Program. We'll be right back. The Instant Investor Program is our 12-week group coaching program, which includes a self-driven course and access to our private investor community. We will take you through the full process of how we find our leads, how we market, how we do our sales and follow-up, and how we determine the best strategy for every opportunity that comes our way. On top of that, you will also join a community of other like-minded investors nationwide that are all marching towards the same goals, and you will have direct access to Dan and myself, so you can continue learning and growing with us as we continue to adapt and grow our business. So whether you're a new investor or already established, our systems can help take you to the next level. So if you think you might be a good fit, go to theinstantinvestorprogram.com and schedule a call, and we can have you talking to motivated leads in as little as 2 weeks. All right. Virtual assistants. One of the easiest ways to start scaling your business and to start basically taking tasks off your plate, especially if you have things that are repetitive and that you hate to do, is to bring on virtual assistants. And it's something that people have done for a long time. I mean, I remember learning about VAs way back when I started, learning about business and passive income. And I read the 4-Hour Work Week, and that's a big thing that Tim Ferriss, who wrote that book, talks about, is using virtual employees. And one of the biggest things that I always think is fascinating when it comes to virtual employees is there's a preconceived notion with American people, especially, about what a VA is capable of, like what what they can and should be doing, like their English levels, like their trustworthiness levels, all these things. People basically have this view that when you say a virtual employee, they think of like an Indian scammer, that's you get like the telemarketing calls that you get where there's like an Indian person that's like trying to convince you to buy something that nobody wants, right?
Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
think a VA is, right? A virtual assistant. But really, it's such an industry now that there are places in the world where people go and get a degree to be a virtual
Mhm.
assistant. They become a
Yeah.
professional,
Well, and
right? Like
you could be a US based virtual assistant. They have those too. It
you
doesn't
can.
necessarily, it doesn't mean offshore. It could mean onshore too. It could mean on many different things,
That's true. I guess for
right?
the sake of this, we're talking about overseas ones,
Overseas. Yep.
particularly because they're going to be a lot more cost efficient than hiring American ones.
Vastly more cost efficient
Yeah, and from our
and work harder.
experience, yeah, they work harder, they're easier to find. So,
Hmm.
the bulk of ours are from the Philippines, but we have virtual employees now in Romania, from India. We have one that was working with us on a contract basis from Russia. We have had quite a few from the Philippines. And so many people, they're so afraid of starting to engage with these people or the whole process. The biggest
Hmm.
mistake they make is they will go and they will find these different staffing companies or these different agencies that promise to bring them VAs, but they don't understand that those people, right, they're going to charge you more money. They don't actually have your best interest at heart about what you need your VA to do. And
Yep.
they're literally just going to go and do whatever they can to squeeze money out of you. And then if that VA fails or you fail to utilize them correctly, they're just going to like let you go, right? It doesn't matter because
Yeah.
it's such an easy sell for them. And,
Hmm.
I talked to this VA staffing agency recently, just like a referral from somebody. And I was like, sure, I'll entertain the sales call, whatever. They were charging $2,500 to go find an admin VA.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? I was like, if I need to go find an admin VA, there's websites all over the place that you can go find them. So we've used
Yep.
Upwork, which is, just like a freelancer platform. It's a great place to
Yep.
find them.
It's great. It's
There's,
easy to find. There's tons. I mean, just go there and search for some, whatever job, search a task
yeah,
and see what pops up. Just look at it.
yeah, exactly. Right. And so Upwork, online jobs at PH, another one to find Filipinos. And you can just go find like anyone. It doesn't cost you
Yeah.
anything. And you can
Yep.
negotiate your price. You're there. It's all secured because you do your payments through the platform if you're worried about that. And as you said, Dan, you can find them for literally any repetitive
Yeah.
task. It can
Yeah.
be something as simple as you need to update a spreadsheet. Like you
Yeah.
have, let's say you have a bunch of columns that are merged and you need them like be split up in some way, but it's in a way that like the formula, you can't really make a formula for it because it's just complicated enough, whatever.
Yep.
You can go and find someone to do it and it'll cost you like $15.
Here's funny. Here's a couple of things I'll just use as examples, like because you don't always necessarily need to hire a VA to work for you, like weekly.
Correct.
Sometimes it is a task, right? And so
Mhm.
I've gone out there. I had a guy from, I think he was from Russia. This was about a year ago. Build some Excel spreadsheets for me that had some logic built into them, right? For like Gantt charts or project management charts for some of our projects. I had him build those for me. Easy. I think I paid him like 50, $60 and he
Yeah.
did it really fast, way faster than I could have done it. Right.
Yeah.
It would have taken me several days fully engaged to get this thing to work properly. And I knew that people do this out there, but I wasn't going to go pay hundreds of dollars a month for a project management software,
Mhm.
and I wasn't going to do it myself.
Yeah.
Another one I actually hired was to put a presentation together for me for a W-2 job. I was like, hey, here's what I need. Can you make all these graphics really nice and pretty? 24 hours and $30 later. And somebody commented like, dude, that's a good presentation. How did you do all that? And I was like, I paid somebody in the Philippines.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
exactly anything like that, right? From
yeah,
data
simple
tasks,
tasks.
we've had them create logos for us. We've had them create basic websites.
Um,
We use them for, I mean, we have VAs that do like our videos for this podcast,
Yeah.
right? Like, they have a basic template and then we just
Mhm.
say, here are the notes that you need to go and turn that into a video. They go and they do it.
Mhm.
If
Yep.
we're going to hire like an American editor to do that, it would be costing us
Yeah.
significantly more than we pay for it.
Yes.
So I mean, they have skill, right? A lot of them do, and a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that.
Very
And
good skill, highest better skill, and like that's the thing too is a lot of times I know when I'm handing it over to any of our staff, they're probably going to do a better job than me.
for
Honestly.
sure. And that's the key is, when you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you have to be spending your time doing the tasks that have the highest likelihood of generating revenue, of making money, the
Mhm.
highest value tasks. But when you're a
Yep.
new entrepreneur, so many people get caught up in doing these little things because it feels busy. They're still in the W-2 mindset where your job as a W-2 employee is to be busy or to appear
Mhm.
busy, right? And they're doing those because they not they don't seem easier. They are easier than doing the revenue generating tasks, which are generally harder. But
Mhm.
honestly, what you can do is you can spend a couple bucks. Doesn't need to be very much at all. I mean, all of our Filipino VAs we pay $5 an hour. For them, that's
Yep.
a good wage.
It's kind of a
You know,
standard wage.
exactly. And then they go and they do basically all the grunt work for us, right? You know, like the little things. Like, I mean, even for our instant investor program, we had our copywriter go and create a bunch of descriptions for all of our videos, just making it, just putting it together a little bit better. And I went to look and start uploading like all the things. I was going to copy and paste in the format, and I was like, this is a giant waste of my time. It's going to take me like 3 hours.
Yep.
And it makes no sense. So I just pinged. We have a full-time admin VA. His name's RV. He's awesome. We just go and I pinged him and I said, hey, can you upload all these for me? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Went and did them, spent the morning doing it.
Nice.
Looks great. It's done. And I was able to go and manage our team, underwrite deals. Like, we got, I think we got a contract that morning because I was able to be present to do that and not copying and pasting stuff into Kajabi. Like there's so many little tasks like that you can outsource. And people, I mean, A, they worry about the money aspect of it. If you're new, I can understand that. But B, I think people have this trust issue with having these overseas employees. But the funny thing is, so many of these employees, they're typically skeptical when you first start working with them because they've been taken advantage of by other
people. Yep.
Right. Or they'll have people that don't pay them on time or like kind of jerk them around or whatever.
They have to beg for their money type thing.
Exactly. Tell you what, if you bring in these employees or like, even if it's like on a task basis, you're clear on what you want. And the second they're done and they do a good job, you pay them, they will be the best people that have ever worked for you.
Oh, absolutely. And they'll go above and beyond
all the time.
So the question I have too is like, so you're saying people are fearful. Like, I've never had a trust issue. I guess I'm a trusting person. Like when I've always I've always like viewed like, especially our virtual team is like, well, they're just working. Like, why would they want to rip me off? Like, I've just never, it probably could happen pretty easily. I don't know, but I've just never thought that. But I also have looked at the system we're using. It's like, well, if they don't produce work, I'm not going to pay them. And I'm not going to give them my credit card number. I'm going to usually pay them through some service that has, secure that will pay me back, right? If I get ripped off. Yeah. So I guess that's why I've trusted it. But anyway, you're saying people have trust issues. I think another issue on top of that is if I'm say I'm a wholesaler, I'm starting out and I know I need a VA, but I'm worried I don't have enough work for them. So that's another issue. That's another concern, which I would say, well, you don't have to necessarily hire 40 hours a week. You could start by doing part-time. But also it's not that much money. And also if they're not if they're not busy the full 40 hours, that's okay. Some weeks are going to be 50 hours. Some weeks are going to be 20 hours. Like, that's okay. It's just like any other employee. Exactly. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. Is every employee in an office working W-2 busy 40 hours a week? Hell no.
No, like 18 hours a week.
I was maybe. I was like 4 hours a week when I worked.
Right, you really took that 4-hour work week to heart. yeah. But you're right.
But
it's okay.
Yeah, and people always stress about that too. I mean, even in GoBundance, I know people that will be like, so I have a VA, technically supposed to be working 40 hours a week. I realized that she's only working 32 hours a week productively for me. She's $5 an hour. Does anyone want these other 8 hours? It's like, just leave her alone.
Just leave her alone. It's like, bro, you have a net worth of $4.5 million. You made $800,000 last year, and you're worried about 8 hours of your VA. Right. People get really skittish because they're like, they'll do screen tracking with their VA, which you can do too. But yeah, you're right. They're like, well, they weren't fully busy the whole time, or I think I get more efficiency out of them. It's like, why don't you focus on getting more efficiency out of your onshore employees before you beat up the virtual employees for what you're perceiving as efficiency losses?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really fascinating. And I mean, really to manage these employees, here's what it should look like. You have the task. If that task is done to your expectation, pay them the money.
Yep.
It's really simple. Even if they quoted you 40 hours, they turn it to you in 30 hours, or like you just let them know, like, I'm going to pay you $50 to do this. And they turn it around and they do it in like 2 hours. And you're like, damn, I could have paid $50 an hour. It could have been 10. Who cares?
Sure.
It's done. Like ask for what that task is worth to you and make that the goal. And then if it's good quality, then just pay them for it.
Yep.
And tell you what, you do that, like, you will have, the best employees. They will be super loyal to you. And I mean, ours, like, they never really miss a day unless there's something extreme. RV, like, his whole area that he lives got hit by like a typhoon. and his like house got
Yeah.
destroyed, and it was like a crazy
Crazy
thing.
flooding
And
and everything. Yeah.
and he was working the next day.
Yeah.
And he like wrote in to apologize because he wasn't going to be able to be as efficient because he was
Yeah.
working on his cousin's old laptop. I was
Yeah.
like, if that happens to an American employee, they're gone for months. You
Right.
know, like
Right.
there's an
Living
extreme
in their
situation.
FEMA trailer.
Yeah, right. You know, it's
So okay,
crazy.
so it sounds like we've got some pretty good virtuals that work for us. And you brought up like where you would typically go. So you said
Yeah.
Upwork. There's Fiverr for like the creatives, like if you need
Mhm.
some of that stuff.
Yeah. Online jobs at PH is a good one.
Online.jobs at PH is a good one. You found some on Reddit before. So
Mhm.
basically you can Google like where to find these folks. You can find them. But
Yeah.
Upwork's probably the most commonly used one just because they have like all of the things you would want to hire a virtual. They kind of have that management system, but it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean it's the only or the best platform to find the best people. But those are the platforms. So then when you've gone out there, maybe you've put a job posting or you just searched, say you needed a bookkeeper, so you just search for a bookkeeper or whatever. How do you get the right person and what do you do? How do you set it all up? How does it go from, okay, I'm going to pick a person and this is how I'm going to employ them and manage them? What are those steps, those first steps look like?
Well, it's just like every other employee, right? So,
Mm,
you always have some interview questions. You ask about their
mm,
background. What I've always done in
mm,
my questions is I'll have something in there that's kind of like silly. I don't know.
right,
That's like I don't know, a dumb question that doesn't really make sense. Like, send me a voice recording telling me, your favorite food, or like just so I know that they read the description, they know
right,
what they're doing, and then I ask for the voice recording just so that I know they speak English well, right?
right,
Or I'll say like, send me like an introduction. But like I try to work in something there that so I know that it's custom. So they're not just sending me like a bunch of boilerplate stuff, or
right. Yeah.
or they have a staffing company that's just going and blasting things out, because it can get a
Mhm.
little bit hairy. Like I remember a while back I was looking to hire a cold caller. I went on Upwork and I had a bunch of guys. They were from Pakistan. All of them were that did this. And they all applied for the job and they all sent me literally the exact same recording. Not the same script, but like literally the same recording of the same two guys talking, right? So it's obviously not,
That's funny.
so you got to use a little bit of due diligence and try to get things to make sure,
Yeah,
that they actually know what they're signing up for.
yeah,
And then, go through the interview process, explain, what you need, set clear expectations, just like you do with every other
mhm,
employee. And then from there, it's really pretty simple. You get them plugged into your system, you create a username if they need it, you share the documents, whatever that
yeah.
is. And then for paying them,
We use some just I want to slow down here for a second. So we generally we'll use Slack
mhm,
for communicating with them as like which is free.
yep.
You can obviously use email as well, and then
Or you
Google
can use
Drive.
Skype, you can use
Yeah,
WhatsApp, you can use whatever.
yeah. They'll typically for like cell phone, communication. You'll have to do something that you can do on Wi-Fi calling, all that sort
Mhm,
of stuff, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you're
Okay.
using Upwork, you can communicate through Upwork. Same with
Yeah.
Fiverr.
Yeah. Which is why, Upwork and Fiverr are great for those two reasons.
Mhm,
Which, I personally prefer not to pay on Upwork because they lose some of the money
mhm,
because they have to pay to be part of the system. But once you get past the trust, if you have trust issues, then you can pull them off Upwork and pay. And we use Wise a lot of times to pay or
mhm.
PayPal.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And those are secure systems that,
Hmm.
verify their bank information. They are who they are and all that sort of stuff. It's not like you're just sending money out into
Hmm.
whatever, especially Wise. Like
Yeah.
they actually have to verify themselves with their bank. So they are who they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And, it
Yeah,
keeps
it's a
the
pretty
the
arduous process with
information.
Wise.
It
Wise
is.
is like it's like legit, and then
Mhm.
once they're all secured in there, then you can send them money pretty easily, pretty quickly within like a few hours, which is kind of dope.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So that that's the way we do it. And then from there, the checkup process is just like everything else. If you want to do time tracking, we've used a system called Hubstaff. You're paying them hourly.
mhm. Yep,
It's funny, we've used Hubstaff for employees. We make them like sign in with it and do all of it. I can't tell you if I've ever actually checked it before.
right,
Again, I just,
yeah,
it sets the precedence that they need to be working full time. And
yep,
then I don't necessarily verify it, but if the work gets done, then I just pay them anyway.
yep,
So you can be as detailed with that as you want. If you are
mhm,
doing things that are, I guess, of like a sensitive nature, you can do screen sharing and things like that to make sure you're not doing anything malicious. But I mean,
Right.
I've never been too concerned about that. It's kind of micromanaging. Just like if I had an employee that was sitting right here next to me, I'm not going to sit there and watch their screen the whole time to make sure they're not dicking around.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just like any other employee, honestly, in that case. So, as far as like expectations and getting them started, because I think this is where people can fail too, or they can be like, oh, I hired a VA and they sucked. And they very well might have, right? We've hired VAs that just don't work out, right? But what does that expectation look like? How do you keep them engaged and busy and doing the work and knowing, because like Filipinos, for example, even though they are really good at learning and doing things, they're also a pretty, I don't know what you call them, amiable culture. They're a very nice culture. So they won't say or do anything. They're always like, yep, sure thing, Sir Dan, sure thing. We can do that for you, Sir Dan. Like very formal, very nice. And they won't give you necessary feedback.
I mean, so I explicitly asked for it. Just like I do with all the rest of my employees. I was like, you have any problems, you have any questions, please tell me. And I always emphasize with, there's no dumb questions and you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Right.
So just like, let me know if you have any problems with whatever that might be.
But being very clear up front with that, but also being very clear with like, here's what I need you to do and when I need you to do it and how I need you to do it. Like whatever those details are, I think are really important. I have found personally are very important because then if they can't follow those, that's when you need to start thinking about pivoting because it is a virtual employee and you do need them to be productive and to follow through on tasks as you aren't there to stare at their screen and watch them. Right. And so that's just for me personally what I found. And as the relationship evolves and they know what you want, then you can just throw things over the fence a lot easier. But when they're first learning, you might like for our bookkeeper, we just started a new virtual bookkeeper. I shot like a dozen 5-minute Loom videos showing her kind of our system and setting the expectation. Like this is exactly how you do these things. Done. I haven't had to think about it too much after that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And, just like any other employee, set the expectation. If they don't meet it, gotta let them go. And then, if it becomes a reoccurring problem, if you have several people come into the same role, it's not working. It's probably not a them problem. It's probably
It's a you problem. Totally. Yep. Absolutely. You're maybe asking too much or you're not being clear or whatever reason. It's definitely a you problem.
Yep. So cool. So I guess to go full circle, honestly treat them like every other employee. You can find them on Upwork, onlinejobs.ph, Reddit. You really don't need to go to these staffing companies. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg for it, or they're going to charge you $9 an hour. I'm telling you, it's so much simpler than you think if you treat them like human beings with families and, ambitions, which they are, like honestly. So
they're normal people.
They're normal people, right? So if you go into it with that mindset, it's quite easy to find them. Setting clear expectations, as you're creating processes for things, be explicitly clear about what the expectations are and what you need to be done, what the outcome needs to look like. If they're not doing that, then, you can pivot and move on from there. So, ultimately it can be something that really helps escalate your business. All those repetitive tasks, if there's anything that you're like, man, I hate doing this. This is so boring. You can probably find a VA to do it for a lot less than you think. And if you are serious about growing a business, it's definitely a must, especially if you're trying to make keep a kind of a lean in-house operation.
It's critical. And if you want to run as an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter if you're in a real estate business or not. Like if there's an option for you to have some of your work done at a low wage, be okay with sending some of this offshore. This isn't like the American made versus like offshore, imported stuff. This is like logical business stuff that Americans most likely aren't going to do for you anyways.
Yeah. Exactly.
Honestly, at the pace you need and at the quality you need.
And I think that's such a key point is in order to find someone to do a lot of this stuff, you can pay them $5 an hour. They'll be happy to do it. You have to find an American employee. You're probably going to have to pay them $45,000 a year. And they're going to be pissed off and be looking at other jobs the whole time. So you're going to be so bored.
Yeah, because they're going to be dissatisfied with their work because sometimes it's not fun work. Repetitive doing RTS, for example, as a VA. Our VAs don't love doing that, but they do it.
Return to sender, right? So basically meaning they go, they verify addresses on letters that we get back. They're literally manually looking at the envelope, going to the county records, making sure that the name and the mailing address are correct. And they're doing that line by line for thousands and thousands of Excel sheets. You could not pay an American employee enough to do that. You can pay
Well, you could. You could pay him $200,000 a year, right, to do it. But we're going to pay a VA the equivalent of that, but in Filipino pesos.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They are making at $5, $6, $7 an hour US. They're making a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that they're doing pretty well. That's like a stable W-2 job in the United States for sure.
Yeah.
So
anyhow,
cool.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right, right on. Well, if you have any questions about VAs, I love virtual employees. They're one of my I'm the quickest person to offload everything to virtual employees whenever I can.
Right.
So feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at Mike_invests if you have any questions about that. You can hit up Dan at InvestorMan Dan. If you want to learn how to find off-market leads and become a wholesaler, flipper, investor that buys massively discounted properties, you can still do it in this market. In fact, we've started to tick up. We did an episode a couple weeks ago about how things were going kind of sideways. Now all of a sudden they're going awesome. Like, I don't know, people kind of went
they're
over
climbing up.
We got 3 contracts today. So go to check out the instantinvestorprogram.com and you can learn from us. We'll teach you exactly how our business runs and how you can run a business exactly the same. Besides that, go download, like, and share our podcast with many people as you can. We're looking to grow this past the 3 figures to 4 figures on weekly listeners. That's the goal.
Yeah, 4 figures, baby.
4 figures.
Get it.
Yeah. And then if anyone wants a shirt, this will be the 3rd time I'm going to say this on episodes that are coming out. But the first 5 people to send me a DM for a shirt, I'll send you one. If you send me one,
bro, I still didn't get mine.
I know, you're right. Shit, I even saw you yesterday. Anyway, first 5 people to send me a DM. Maybe send me a DM, Dan. You'll be one of the first.
Oh, I got to learn how to use that.
These shirt, which are pretty sweet. You can check them out on our YouTube. We've worn them on a couple of them. And then that's all we got. So cool. Send us away, Dan.
All right. Investor Man Dan with Mike Invest signing off for another week.
That's all you got.
I was trying to. That was like my serenaded voice, like Delilah on the radio. I thought that's what I was going to sound like. That didn't work, did it?
That didn't work at all. No, I had more like stalker vibes.
Oh shit! So. All right, next time.
All right, thanks guys. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.